Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, listeners and viewers. It's our pleasure to have you again on Agriculture for today and tomorrow. We are here again from last week, and thank you, Joy, for that very inciting, very brief thinker on the conversation around what farmers really need or how we can achieve food security in Nigeria. So yes, we will be continuing today on our episode of on our series of exploring different crops that grow in Nigeria and the value chain. Remember, we have always been talking about how we can improve value addition, how we can process our crops rather than depending on exporting raw materials. Exporting raw materials have proven to be counterproductive, has proven to cause a whole lot of inflation, because you export raw materials at 1 naira and then you import like 10 other things that are produced from that raw material, and the total cost is close to 100 naira. So you find out that we are being penny wise and being pound foolish. So today we'll be exploring yam products, how the value chain, the value proposition of yam products. Remember, this is Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow, where we promote smart solutions for greener harvest. And this TV show is brought to you by Growth for Sustainable Agriculture Initiative as part of their Media for Agricultural Development project. So we'll go into we'll just go straight into talking about yam. Of course, we all know yam. It's a versatile crop that can be transformed into various products, and as we all know, that yam cuts across Nigeria. Almost every tribe, almost every home, almost every state in Nigeria has a special delicacy done with yam. So yam is a crop that is consumed. In fact, at this point, it's called a staple. It is consumed in every part of Nigeria. So the question is, Nigeria has also been exporting yam. Nigeria has also been taking yam out of the country to exporting it because it is a staple crop that is produced in different various parts. But how can we add value to this yam? How can we make sure that we maximize, take the full benefit needed from this yam? So first and foremost, of course, we all know the ones we are very familiar with are the raw yam tubers. So of course, people can become yam tuber sellers, but this is more the raw material. But yes, yam can be consumed as a raw material. So we have people that sell raw yam and then of course cut and package. But beyond the raw yam that after harvesting and probably cleaning and storing, and then beyond that, what are the more benefits we can get from these yam tubers as a country? What are those things that we can, because of course, if for some of us, we just heard, I should say thankfully, the National Assembly just declined increase of value added tax from 7.5% to 10%. That 2.5% makes a whole lot of difference. And then the question is, what exactly are we producing in Nigeria that we keep on adding VAT, value added tax? For us to have value added tax, we need to have more produce. For us to justify an increase in value added, in fact, if we have more products, if we have more value-added product, the processing and the production industry, the manufacturing industry rises rises to the occasion. We will have more, and we will not need to increase the value-added tax. Rather, we will have more products to be taxed, which will meet the revenue generation target of the country. But by the time we keep on increasing our VAT on the small level of products we have, then the masses begin to suffer. So let us talk about what more products we can bring about. Of course, in the food sector, we can have yam flour. So yam flour is used for a whole lot of things. It can be used for swallow. It can be used for production of confectionaries. Yam flour can be a healthy alternative, a gluten-free alternative to wheat flour that is currently being used for production for baking of cake, biscuit, and all of that. So we can have yam flour as a healthy flour alternative. We can, of course, and then we have yam chips. Yam chips is another food byproduct of yam, and we can have people setting up yam chips factory and increasing the value. Of course, if raw yam is 10 naira, by the time you use that yam to produce yam chips, you can actually add value to it and increase the value of that yam to a total end value of about maybe 50 naira. So we have yam chips that can also be produced. This is done, of course, you know what chips are. This is done by slicing the yam, either sun drying or or drying with groundnut oil, or frying, sun drying or frying to get your chips. And we have dried yam chips, and then of course we have yam starch. Extracted starch used as thickener in food processing and for industrial purposes. Yam starch is also a very veritable byproduct of yam, which can be extracted and used both in industrial purposes for other, which we will see, and also can be used for as food thickener. As food thickener for those of us that do soups, that produce that cook and prepare soups. We know that sometimes we need a thickener, and then this thickener is organic. It is yam, of course, and you know it makes your soup a whole lot more tastier, a whole lot more, it holds more. So somebody can start producing this yam starch and packaging it and selling it as a food thickener, and then that would be, of course, very healthy and very nutritious. Then in the snacks family, or still part of the food, we can have yam crackers. Of course, we know when yam is being being exposed to a high temperature, it becomes like flakes. And of course, yam crackers would be a very delicious meal after for snacks that can be produced. So the way we have other forms of crackers, we can have yam crackers. And the hope, the plan here is that we are inspiring somebody to begin to see a value addition business that they can attach or they can begin. So of course, yam crackers are there, yam biscuits are there, made by mixing yam flour with other ingredients for a unique biscuit filling. Yes, now specialty and value added products. We can have yam breads and yam cakes of the flour, from the flour, yam based pasta. Yes, we can also have a pasta made from yam. So this is a whole set of food industry that can produce yam-based pasta. And of course, we know the nutritional benefits of yam, so it gives us various ways of consuming yam as food. We also have fermented yam products like the apple that we all know. So if we can also develop more hygienic, more hygienic, and of course a better packaging way of producing fufu. We have had instances, because production of fufu has been left to the local women. To the best of my knowledge, I stand to be corrected if there are standard hygienic fufu. When we say fufu, some people call it apple processing plants. And you know, there have been reports of these local women using some unhealthy things like hypo to be able to raise it, some people using chemicals to be able to keep it to make it ferment faster, and some others using chemicals to preserve it. So if somebody comes in, imagine somebody coming in and having a fufu plant and using very hygienic, very healthy methods to produce fufu. That would be a banger, because of course fufu, like it's called on the street, 6 to 6 is a very big meal in Nigeria. Now if we go beyond the food byproducts, the food value added products of yam, let us also go into the industrial and non-food products of yam. First and foremost, we've talked about the starch that can be used in industrial purposes to make ethanol. It can be used in the production of ethanol, yam-based ethanol. Yam starch can be processed into ethanol from industrial and fuel applications. And of course, you know, ethanol is used in the aviation sector. Ethanol is used in very many sectors, in the alcohol, in the beverage industry. So imagine that we have a processor producing yam-based. Of course, yam is a very viable crop in Nigeria. So the access to raw materials, which is one of the major complaints of industrialists, of processors, of manufacturing industry, would not be a major challenge if somebody sets up an ethanol making plant in a yam producing sector, like in Kogi State, in Benue State. Of course, you know that employment will increase there, and of course value will be added, and of course our yams will go out. Imagine us exporting ethanol, yam-based ethanol, instead of raw yam. We will be exporting at a higher price. We will be exporting at a more valued, as a more valued commodity, and of course the GDP of Nigeria will increase, and then Nigeria will even have more products to tax, which will increase the tax net. Rather than increasing the tax, we increase the taxable products. I think that would be a better way. And then of course, besides ethanol, yam can be used as animal feed. You go to the farm and you see a whole lot of wastage, a whole lot of some people have these yams because of their coloration or because maybe insects have bitten into them. These yams are thrown away. So we can have somebody collating these yams, these waste yams, those other smaller yams that are left in the field after harvest, and producing a yam-based animal feed. Of course, you know that yam is rich in starch, yam is rich in nutrients, and yam is rich in fiber. These are very, very important components of food that animals can have, and then you reduce your expenses. Or are you a farmer and you have these yams that go to waste in bulk in large quantities? You can actually set up a mini processing plant, blend these yams and turn them into pelletized feeds and sell them to livestock farmers. So these are value-added propositions that you can do. Yam, the starch from yam can also serve as raw material for making adhesives, gum. The starch from yam can be used to make gum. This is more in the chemistry industry, in the chemical production industry, and then we can have people working to ensure that they can get the starch from yam. And then, so imagine we set up the first plant to extract yam starch, and then we are taxing yam starch. And then we set up another plant to produce yam starch gums, adhesives made from yam starch, and then that product will also be taxed. This is actually directed to the government, directed to private sector, directed to industrialists, to ensure, to see how they can increase taxable products rather than increasing the tax percentage. So we also talk about bioplastics. Yam starch actually has very many various uses that it can be used for. And of course, medicinal products. Herbal yam extracts. Some yam varieties like wild yam are processed for medicinal purposes due to their dalsgenine content. They have an active ingredient called dalsgenine, which is used to produce steroids or hormone treatment. So yes, our people in the pharmaceutical industry can also explore having this variety of yam being produced, and they will now also contribute to the pharmaceutical products in Nigeria. Now, emerging innovations, things that are still in the pipelines, we can start having frozen yam products. We can have yam-based noodles, yam-based pasta, yam-based noodles. We can have yam puri, yam-based beverages, and of course, functional foods which serve as to give us a particular nutrient or a particular medicinal value. So today on Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow TV show, we've been exploring the various products that we can use yam for, rather than just consuming yam directly, rather than just exporting our yams out. What more can we use these yams to produce to improve the country's GDP, to also improve employment for young people, to also increase opportunities of investing in the agricultural sector beyond just farming, just farming primary production. So today, I hope we've been able to inspire somebody. I hope we've given someone a business idea. I hope we've given someone an investment idea. And so basically that is all we'll be taking on Agriculture for Today and Tomorrow. Remember, my name is Daniel Black, and we are always here to promote smart solutions for greener harvest. Follow us on social media and follow the conversation. Let us know what you think. Let us know, do you know of any other product that can be made from yam, that can be made from yam? And let us continue to improve the knowledge we have so that we can ensure to make the agricultural sector and of course the food security situation in Nigeria a reality. See you in the next episode, and cheers.
In the heart of our field,